The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. And it's great, once again, to have Bob Bleier, our football expert. Have you cashed your playoff check yet?
Yeah, right.
Your Super Bowl check
All I
for the
have to say is 6. Lucky number 6.
I see 1.
Mike Catalana, Pat
Yep.
Duffy.
Hey, how's it going?
What do you got?
This is my favorite New Jersey of all time. It is a Soviet, legitimate from behind the Iron Curtain jersey. Alexander Mogilny, Sabres legend. It was given to me by 2 Breakroom listeners. They were cleaning out their parents' head. It's Kathy and Valentia. Thank you so much. They found this, and they gave me some Russian hockey nesting dolls as well. It's like the coolest
Did you
sweater.
pay for them?
I don't want to answer that question, Bob.
You'll have to declare this.
Well, now I will. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate that.
Bob, my take from the Super Bowl is it's nice to see that a 60-year-old guy can do something better than a 30-year-old guy.
How good was that? I mean, you looked at him all week. They talked about his regimen, his eating regimen, his workout regimen. He goes to bed every night at 8:30, cut and dry. And
That's the Brady side. I mean, the 60-30, I think it's Belichick McVay.
Oh, you're talking about the old guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely got out-coached. McVay had it, even said that. He got out-coached. They played harder. They played better prepared. And I thought Goff looked like a true rookie in that game. He made a
Goff-ful.
Yeah.
Is what he looked.
It comes in with that.
True rookie.
Goff-ful.
Yeah, he got outcoached. And, the takes on it are they go too much to an extreme. I don't think Sean McVay is some bust all of a sudden. 2 years, he's got a team in the Super Bowl. But can we hold off on the reinventing football part of it? It was as if no one had ever done what Sean McVay did. Look, he did a lot with Jared Goff. And I think we've seen the flaws in Goff, that he appears to be sort of a system guy. He's still young. He'll be good. McVay's 33. He's got plenty of chances to come back. But he certainly got outcoached in that game. And there's one thing about getting outcoached and not seeing something when it hits you. It's adjustments. And the whole game, I'm sitting there going, when is something different going to happen? When are they going to go no huddle, which is tough for them to do because he's so programmed as the quarterback. So I thought that was the case. I thought the New England offense was pretty pedestrian most of the game. I know they made those plays
That's
to Edelman.
kind, I think.
Yeah, and Gronk made the biggest play of the game. He made a more impactful play than any play that Edelman made in the game, as effective as Edelman was. And the Patriots did just enough. I give their defense credit. I give Wade Phillips credit. As many catches as Edelman had in that game, they had 3 points in the fourth quarter of that game, and the Rams offense failed.
Well, it's interesting. A very smart man on this show said right before the Super Bowl that the team that controlled the offensive flow of the game, was able to move the ball and keep possession, would be the team that won that game. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that yes, he gets out-coached by Belichick, whatever. But until a minute left in that game, you were a play away. Yeah. And you're a terrible throw from Goff away from tying that game.
Well, and a good throw and a potential catch.
Exactly. Yes.
That in his hand.
I mean, how about the okay, exactly. I don't know. I think it's being overblown because of the reputation of Belichick and Brady. And okay, Bob, I love you to death, but Brady, wow, way to do it again. That was one of the worst Brady performances we've ever seen. He was waiting to throw the ball. He was obviously confused by what the Rams and Wade Phillips were doing to him. Right? There was a point where I'm watching that game, watching Brady. I've never seen him wait like this, pause like this, and then take the underneath route. Normally when he's taking his time, he's looking for something to open up. I was very impressed by the way that the Rams defense was able to control New England, and maybe, just maybe, there is a blueprint now to make Brady have to take his time and figure something out. That's my only hope I'm taking away from this game.
Last thing, which of those two is most likely to get back?
Definitely New England. I think it's because of the coaching. They're prepared for every team they play. Goff wasn't thrown in rhythm either. I think that was one of the big problems. He threw a lot understrode, overstrode, in the dirt, in the ground, made a lot of bad throws. And what was up with Gurley? I mean, he's the best player in the league, a dynamic guy. You give him the ball 20, 25 times a game, he never touched it. So there was something going on with that whole, I don't know what was going on with the Rams, but it was not a good showing at all. Not a good showing at all.
Which one gets back?
I would definitely say New England has the better shot, and we go to where it could change. It's got to change from within. It's got to change from the AFC East. You have to put pressure on them. They had 5 losses this year, which in Patriot world is a bit of a crack. They didn't have number 1 overall, which is a slight one. The Bills, the Jets, and maybe even the Dolphins have to put more pressure on them in the division, or they walk to a bye and maybe walk to home field and they get back again.
One last thing is their 5 losses were against teams that were all had losing records.
Yeah.
Didn't
all
make the
on
playoffs.
the road, too.
Unbelievable.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. We'll talk about the Bills next.
The Press Box is brought to you in part by Bay & Goodman Pizza, a local Rochester favorite. Corner of North Winton and Browncroft, Bay & Goodman Pizza.
Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Buffalo Bills hired Ken Dorsey as a quarterback coach. There's another Carolina connection.
Yeah.
When are we going to break loose of this cord that connects the Bills to Carolina?
It's a big NFL thing. And look, that doesn't make Ken Dorsey a bad quarterbacks coach. He's got a lot of guys that'll swear by him. I didn't see a lot out of Cully last year, so there were connections there too. Because if it isn't Carolina, it's been Philadelphia where he's had the connections. I'm not going to disparage the guy just because he happened to come from there. But yeah, it's a pretty big circle of people you can look to hire. And I know Jordan Palmer's name came up a lot because he's the guy that's been Allen's, guy. But if you're Jordan Palmer, you want to quit what you're doing to work 80 hours a week to work with one quarterback, unless you wanted to be a head coach in the National Football League or an offensive coordinator. I think these are the kind of guys you get. And, Cam Newton did have a big push up under Dorsey, so you kind of hope it helps Allen.
It is interesting how many legendary college quarterbacks are going to be within that Bills quarterback room, right? Like Matt Barkley, super successful at USC. Dorsey, arguably the greatest college quarterback of the last 20-something years. And then Josh Allen, the super freak coming out of Wyoming. I feel bad for Derek Anderson. Hey guys, I also play college football too.
But in Derek Anderson's case, though, there was so much attention focused on how great he was working with Allen that I thought, God, he's going to be the next quarterback coach.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised or even upset if they decided that Derek Anderson was going to be the guy that ran the quarterback room. But, I've never been in that room before. I don't know if it's possible to prepare for a game and be the guy preparing other guys for a game.
I honestly don't think that Anderson could fit the bill. I think Dorsey's a great pick. I think it's about familiarity, too, when you come to staffs. A lot of guys, when they become the head guy, they grab old staff from all the other teams they played with because they know the system, they listen to each other. I think there's a lot involved with that pick, but I think he's going to be a good choice. I really do. And I think Allen made great strides last year at the end of the season, so I'm excited to see what he does this year.
But I go back to Anderson. Again, so much attention was focused on, this guy's such a great relationship. What does Dorsey do that Anderson doesn't? Or how does that work?
I think it's just something brand new. As a Buffalo fan and as critics of the Bills, we've been saying all the time it's business as usual. I think just a change of scenery, just bringing in someone new, a new vision, a new concept, a new just a new teaching system. I think all that stuff's going to help him. Buffalo is a real finicky town, Pat.
And look at it this way, right? Let's use a personal relate. If Derek Anderson was the quarterback's coach and the third string quarterback, it would be like Mike Catalana's position right now, where he's on the air and he's the program director, sports director. So, how bad Mike is on the air. Imagine how good he could be if he didn't have to prepare. Yeah,
he's trying. You tried so hard.
Listen, for poor Toby and Jenna having to, let's do this now.
But to dismiss his idiotic point, it's a different job, though. Anderson's job was to be the veteran, teach him being a pro, being a guy. And Dorsey's job is mechanics, is breaking down tape. It is thought of it. Does that mean that Anderson can't be a quarterback's coach? Sure. But Dorsey's done it. Been there and done it.
I had just read that as he was getting so much credit. It says, well, the quarterback coach must be doing nothing if Anderson is such a godsend.
Well, that's a whole different angle to it, because I said all the time, I'd hear Allen talk about different people. I did not hear Cully's name very often.
Ever.
He would talk about Dable, he would talk about Anderson, or, DA, he's got the names, and Barkley and everybody, but he did not speak often about Cully. So that's who he's replacing, not replacing Anderson.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Today is all about belief. Right? It's not enough for me to believe it. It's not enough for Coach Hill or Coach Barstrom to believe it. You have to be the ones that believe that you are capable of running the way that we all know you are capable of, and that those negative thoughts that are coming into your head, you can acknowledge and push away. What's your response to them going to be? 5 more meters, 5 more meters, 5 more meters.
Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, the Buffalo Sabres becoming, either way, buyers or sellers as the trade deadline approaches.
I don't know who they're selling. I look at it this way. If you're buying, it better not be for a rental player, because there are still Sabres fans right now, as the Sabres sit just outside as we tape this, of a playoff spot, that think that they are 1 or 2 rental players away from making a legitimate run into the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're not. If you're buying at the deadline, you are buying a younger player that has manageable money and years left on his contract that you think can make this team better next year and the year after, right? You do not want to mortgage anything you have in your cupboard, because right now their farm system looks really, really good. You got a lot of young guys that you haven't seen play professionally that can contribute over the next 2 years. If I'm Botro, tight, sit, don't do a thing. If this team can make the playoffs this year, great. If not, no big.
All right, so your guy, when you're talking about Bottrell, what does he think about Phil Housley as his coach? Because to Pat's point, if you want to be patient, that isn't necessarily the best thing for Phil Housley, because Phil Housley may not have the long term, depending on how they do in the second half. If you want to make it work with your choice as the head coach, maybe you're more aggressive at the deadline to get him help to get yourselves in the playoffs. Is it not different for Phil Housley? Jack Eichel's going to be around. Sam Reinhart's going to be around. Jason Bottrell's going to be around. Phil Housley needs a little help to get to the playoffs.
I think there's something to be said, too, that the fans have been patient enough to this point. Give them a little something. If you would have put something in there to make the rest of the season interesting.
Bottrell said it perfectly a couple weeks ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, when you make deals like this, without thinking about the future, you're in the same exact spot 2 years from now that you were last season. Don't do it. Don't be stupid. And I think Housley might be a dead man walking anyway.
Like it or not, being Luke Walton these days.
Oh, he's in such a bad spot. Look, he acted like he invented basketball when he filled in for Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors. He was in a bad spot. LeBron does this with coaches. That team is just, again, as we're talking now, they haven't made a deal for Anthony Davis, whether they do or not. At some point, he's getting fired, right? It's just a matter of when they do it. It's not like he's going to survive this. It's Luke Walton. He'll end up with a bad team getting his second opportunity, or really third opportunity to be a head coach. So, no, I've never liked him as a head coach. I thought he was in a bad spot to begin with, and it's just inevitable that he's gone.
Should he not have taken that job?
Well, no, you have to take that job, right? You absolutely have to take the job.
It's the best market in the country, right? My opinion is that there are coaches in the NBA that are great players coaches, and there are coaches that are dictated by their players. And I think Walton is one of those guys. I think he's good with the X's and O's, and cerebrally he's got the game down. Yeah. But when you've got players that are above you in stature, it's really difficult to coach those people.
You make a good point. In Miami, Pat Riley stood up Well, you make a very good point.
Thank you, Michael.
It's him that doesn't make the good points. Pat Riley stood up to LeBron and said, Eric Spoelstra is staying. And that was a young guy, again, like Walton, that didn't have the resume, proved to be the right move. Spoelstra is a really good coach, and Riley was the guy. I don't think in L.A. anybody is standing up to LeBron. I don't even Magic Johnson's not standing up to him. He'll be gone.
We are the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Unfinished Business is next. And now here's this week's MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
And now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Get 2 for 2 egg and cheese wraps, 2 for 4 bagels with cream cheese spread, and 2 for 5 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants with Dunkin' Go-Tos. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
All right, let's go back and talk about the Sabres for a little bit longer. Now is the time. It's the time for Linus Ullmark to be your starting goalie moving forward. The Sabres in the offseason went and signed Carter Hutton, a guy who has had a pretty good career as a spot start backup goaltender. $3.5 million, I believe, for 3 years, or whatever. The point is this. You brought him in to get Linus Ullmark ready to see if he's your guy before your next round of goaltenders that you drafted high came in. And Carter Hutton has performed admirably. I do not blame Carter Hutton for the problems that the Sabres are having. But Carter Hutton is showing in full-time duty that maybe the stresses of being a starting goaltender all season long are not going to work for him. Linus Ullmark is your guy. You've got a 3 to 4 year window to find out if Linus Ullmark is your NHL All-Star goaltender before Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen shows up from Sudbury in Ontario. If you don't make this move and lean on Linus for the rest of the season, you're making a huge mistake, and you're causing problems next season that could be addressed right now.
Can he be the difference in the 3 points they need in the standings?
Maybe. I mean, he played great against... Why am I blanking right
Minnesota.
now? Yes, thank you. I mean, he lets in 4 goals, but he makes 39 saves. He has an amazing game against Dallas, and then gets sat the next night. Yes, I think that... Yeah, I think he's the difference if you're going to go goalie.
Who's the future goalie?
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
I hear that.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Former New England Patriot quarterback Bob Bleier, you're up.
Yeah, I want to talk about, hey, is it always the right thing to do when you want to go to the Super Bowl is to just attend the game? I say no. When I was in Atlanta this past week, I went Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, got to spend some time with some relatives at ESPN's headquarters, as well as an event sponsored by Mike Ditka and Ron Jaworski called Cigars with the Stars. What an incredible fundraising event for the NFL. I would recommend and suggest that you get online, look at Cigars and Stars, consider going down to Miami next year, and maybe I will join you at the event. I'm trying to convince Mr. Catalana to join me next year as well. So it's not always about the game, it's about the pregame festivities in the week prior. It's a great time next year in Miami.
Wow, Bob Bleier and Mike Catalana, huh?
Hey.
How could I say no?
Wow, your name dropping.
Bless our Mara, a similar thing for me. I said they sent me down, Channel 10 did way back in the day, sent me down early to cover the Cherry Bowl.
Wow.
Did not stay for the game.
All right, I'm going to go back to the Super Bowl. And if you're watching the game and you were a right-thinking person, you were rooting against New England in the game. And what were you yelling during the entire game? Somebody cover him, right? Because you're talking about number 11. You're talking about Julian Edleman, who kept making those catches. And he had a very good game. And I can see certainly why he got MVP, because he put up the numbers in a game where even though defense is dominated, they always go to the offense. But the comical thing after the game was the talk about Julian Edleman not just could be a Hall of Famer. There were respected people like Adam Schefter saying he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Look, Julian Edelman's got great numbers in the playoffs. He's been in a lot of games, and he has been very effective. but he's not going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, when you look at his career numbers, they are pedestrian. You are not putting guys like that in. There are guys with double or triple the amount of touchdowns that have not gotten into the Hall yet or have waited, like Andre Reed, year after year after year. Look, he's been effective. He's replaced other guys who've been in that role with Tom Brady, but he's not going to the Hall of Fame. And to quote our buddy Joe LaMonaco, who said this to me from WHAM Radio, if he wants a gold jacket, he can sell houses for Century 21. That's a good line, right?
2 words, though, that make me nervous. Lynn Swan.
Yeah,
when
but
the championships show up and your face is all over the footage, sometimes you get the benefit of the doubt.
Well, you are right when you just look at stats.
Sorry,
because
right?
you could go back and look at some of the quarterbacks. I mean, Bob Greasy among them, guys who've made the Hall of Fame without the numbers. It's so different now. He's not going to. He needs a ticket to get into camp.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse Unfinished Business, brought to you by Duncan. Bob Bleier, thank you.
Great to be here.
It was a great season, starting
It
from
was.
picking a Cincinnati Super Bowl.
6. 1.
Mike, Pat, thanks again. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.